has set up tents where dozens of displaced persons are being processed. They can also participate in listening sessions with psychologists. Rose has been receiving care for depression. She blames the war for her mental state, but says her journey to recovery has begun.
When someone flees war, they are very disturbed, and that was my case too. But here we have been taught how to forget everything we've left behind and how to calm our thoughts.
Rose is not alone. According to MSF, living in camps around Goma is a challenging environment for the hundreds of thousands of displaced people, especially women. Every day, medical staff say about 70 female survivors of sexual assault visit the 6 MSF health facilities in camps near Goma. Faustin Hakizimana is the head of Bulengo camp. He says the need for psychosocial support is more urgent than ever.
When
we looked into the real problem, we found out that many have been disturbed by the horrors of war and others have been raped when they look for wood in the forests, which is why so many women here suffer of mental illness.
Gerlas Mulekia, a clinical psychologist with Médecins Sans Frontières at the Lushagala camp, says more help is needed.
Most of the people we see show signs of anxiety and post-traumatic problems. We run 3 group sessions a day, and each group is made up of 10 people, for a total of 30 people a day. If it goes on like this, we'll need to expand the activities to try and meet as many of the needs as possible.
Psychosocial care is available to both genders, but officials say most of the people taking advantage of the services are women whose mental health challenges are impacting their ability to care for their children. Zanemneti Zaidi, VOA News, Goma.
Corruption has remained one of Nigeria's most enduring national challenges, draining public resources, weakening institutions, distorting governance, and eroding citizens' confidence in government. But in recent weeks, the country has been confronted with questions that go beyond the traditional narrative of corruption. How does a purportedly non-existent government agency find its way into the federal secretariat, operate for months, and even attract the reported 1.3 billion naira allocation in the national budget? The controversy surrounding the Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council has raised serious questions about institutional oversight, budgetary scrutiny, and the ability of government systems to detect fraud before public resources are exposed to abuse. And while Nigerians are still demanding answers from the fake agency saga, another major debate has emerged around the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC), a federal agency with national jurisdiction to fight corruption. The commission was established to investigate and prosecute financial crimes and recover the proceeds of corruption, whether it happened within a state, state agencies, federal authorities, and federal agencies. But as its activities increasingly intersect with the political space, questions about the independence, timing, and application of its powers have continued to arise. The recent freezing of the Osun State government accounts by the EFCC, allegedly after a huge sum of money had in questionable manners been transferred from the Osun State government's accounts into some private shadow accounts, has again brought that debate into sharp focus. The EFCC's action triggered a political and legal confrontation with Governor Ademola Adeleke challenging the commission and subsequently filing a $2 billion damages suit. But just before this, President Bola Tinubu had in a statement personally signed by him directed the EFCC to vacate the freezing order, citing concerns about timing and particularly the electoral process currently ongoing in Osun State. But rather than lay the controversy to rest, the president's action has stirred up another controversy. This time, questions are being raised about the independence of the EFCC, which under its enabling act is expected to be independent in its operations except in filing reports to the appropriate organs of government as required by law. In this particular instance, the EFCC would appear to have followed the law strictly, election or no election, although questions as to its selective application appear very valid. So, where exactly is the line between legitimate anti-corruption enforcement and political interference? Can an anti-graft agency investigate political actors without being perceived as taking sides? And when the president intervenes in an EFCC action, does that strengthen confidence in the system or raise even more questions about institutional independence? These questions become even more significant as Osun State edges towards another crucial political contest, with political tensions already attracting concerns from traditional and political stakeholders. But perhaps the bigger question is not simply whether Nigeria is fighting corruption. It is how Nigeria is fighting corruption. Are our institutions strong enough to prevent corruption before it happens? Are budgetary and administrative systems capable of stopping fictitious agencies, questionable appointments, and fraudulent structures from penetrating government? Are anti-corruption agencies being allowed to operate independently, transparently, and without political influence? And most importantly, can Nigerians trust that the war against corruption is being fought consistently, regardless of who is involved, which party they belong to, or whose political interests may be affected? As Nigeria moves closer to another defining electoral season, the answers to these questions may determine not only the credibility of the anti-corruption campaign, but also the public's confidence in the very institutions established to protect the nation's resources. Today, we ask, Nigeria and the fight against corruption, is the system winning the war, or are politics, institutional weaknesses, and selective accountability getting in the way? Dr. Umar Yakubu is an anti-corruption expert. He is the Executive Director, Center for Fiscal Transparency and Public Integrity. He joins us today on Jigsaw.
A very warm welcome to you wherever you are watching us from. My name is Benga Aruleba. We are starting today's conversation. Our guest is Dr. Umar Yakubu. He is the one that is the guest we have on today, and we are adding his voice to this search for answers to all the questions we have raised in the poster. Nigeria and the fight against corruption. Is Nigeria actually winning the war? Dr. Umar Yakubu is here. Dr. Umar Yakubu is Executive Director, Center for Fiscal Transparency and Public Integrity. Like I said, he's an anti-corruption expert as well. Good to see you, Dr. Umar.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Thank you so much for finding time to join us. All right, simple question. Nigeria and corruption. Is Nigeria winning this war? Judging by what is happening around us, the latest issues, particularly this fake agency issue, whose ghosts we are yet to lay to rest?
Well, that's a complex question that I cannot give you a yes or no answer, and depending on the mechanism one wants to use. So if you use the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, which every country ought to be using, over 200 countries, not every country actually, ought to use, you find that Nigeria, there are 5 pillars, but there are 4 that you can't really measure. That is, there's a prevention arm, there is a criminalization arm, there's asset recovery, and there's international cooperation. So in the terms of asset recovery, you find that Nigeria is doing well. But when you look at it from the surface, we're doing well because our preventive mechanisms are likely not working, because it means there's a lot of corruption and money going out of the country, so there's a lot of repatriation. So on that scorecard, you find that we're doing well.
I'm going to take you up on that. So I just want to have it at the back of your mind.
Sure.
You said we are doing well on asset recovery.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
That will probably prove otherwise.
Okay. So if you now look at the prevention, definitely we're not doing well there.
Okay.
Because what the people normally see is the sensitization, the talking and all of that. But the major critical element of prevention is to stop it from happening in the first place. Now that area we're not doing well at all, and I can explain why we're not doing well. In other areas, we're just neither here or there, international cooperation and all of that. So it depends on how you look at it now. The way I view it now, because the easiest thing to do is to target the anti-corruption agencies. Now this is the ICPC, the EFCC, the Code of Conduct Bureau, and all those accountability agencies that are supposed to ensure there's prevention. But it's important to look at the economy as a whole. Now, just before we started, I saw the preview about how they had increased recurrent expenditure by like 600 billion or so in the last budget. And as you know, the budget now, seriously, nobody takes it seriously anymore. Nobody takes it seriously.
Because we don't know which one we are, when you say budget, which one are you talking about? 2024, 2025, or 2026?
Even budgets, there are very responsible civil society organizations that follows the budget. They're even getting tired because nobody takes the budget seriously. You have 3 budgets, nobody knows. I don't know. I'm not sure whether you know of which one they're implementing.
I just mentioned that there are 3 budgets that are overlapping now, so we don't
know which one is being implemented.
Exactly.
That's my point. Then the second aspect is, how was the budget prepared? Is it citizen-led? What are the inputs of those budget, or is it the political class that sat down and decided to form the budget? What are the components? How is it going to develop the economy? What are the macroeconomic indicators that will improve if you implement the budget? I'm of the view that if you even implement whichever year of the budget you want to implement, it might not really translate too much, because there are too many insertions in the budget. There are too many projects that are not citizen-driven. There are too many projects that are there just to satisfy some political class or some political people. They are not there to really develop the economy. So
budgets are supposed to be people's needs-driven.
Citizen-driven,
right?
Yes.
Globally.
Yes. But that is not happening. Some may argue, okay, is our National Assembly members that are representing us, so that the ones that are making inputs into the budget. That argument is valid. But where do the National Assembly members, where you are supposedly supposed to have different political parties, when last did you see opposition to anything regarding the budget? They all say yes, stamp it, and it moves forward. So even if they implement it, we might not see much. All these people advocating that there should be implementation. So you might not even really see much, depending on which year they even want to implement anyway. So you can see there is selective implementation. The one they have political interest, you see payments are being made. There's high level of implementation, some as much as 80%, 90%. The ones that they don't have deep political interest, you see low level implementation. So it's just not a very good thing to be doing in 2026, where we're supposed to be competing with over 200 countries. Countries are moving forward.
You said this is a component of the budget, the anti-corruption scheme under the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, budgeting process and all of that. But I am wondering, to what extent is our opaque budgeting system, to what extent is it promoting corruption or making the fight against corruption difficult to fight?
Okay, good. So if you look at the accountability mechanism as a whole, like you rightly said, procurement is a critical component.
Yeah.
And the last data shows that 72% of all public sector corruption in Nigeria is through procurement.
Related.
If you listen to the EFCC, they even tell you 90%, but I don't know what data they are relying on. But let's take the 72%. That is bad enough for any country to bleed, you know, that you cannot implement these things now. But if you now look at the procurement function, where it has been captured, I can use that word, because everything that goes through at the federal level and at the state level, and I believe it's even worse at the state level. There's a semblance of integrity at the federal level, where the Bureau of Public Procurement at least has no COPO. It's an open platform where you see the contracts, you see who is even being given, even though some elements are not being followed. So, but at the state level is much worse at that level. Now, when you are bleeding 72%, now, so it means even if you put, let's say, 1 billion naira for a project.
Let's take 72% of it and put it in a drain.
Thank you.
In a drain pipe.
Thank you.
That's what it means.
Yes. So if you implement it, it's problematic. If you don't implement it, it's problematic. So that means the budgeting system from the bottom has to change completely. What we have been doing the last 10 years is not a serious activity for any serious economy if you really want to develop and implement budgets. But come back now, when you are bleeding 72% in every year in your budgets at the federal level, I might likely going to be worse at the
state level. Of course, we can guarantee that.
Now, tell me, sir, how do you want the anti-corruption agencies to cope? That is the problem. So sometimes I'm not speaking for them. I'm just trying to draw attention. As you are criticizing the ICPC, EFCC, it's also critical to look at those other accountability institutions, the Bureau of Public Procurement, federal and state bureaus of public procurement. You look at the Central Bank of Nigeria, they're very critical, because when you take, assuming the 72% bleeds now, those funds are going through financial institutions. They are going through financial institutions. So now, where are the regulators now? Which is the Central Bank of Nigeria now, that is supposed to prevent money laundering, combating fraud. They have a whole department or units taking care of these things. Where are they stopping the banks? Because it's the regulator that is responsible for the banks. If you are talking about the BDCs, no country in this world runs BDCs the way we run. There are too many. The other time they were about 3,000. I think they've reduced them to 1,000. So if you do the due diligence of those 1,000, go and find out the owners of those BDCs. Why? Creating a rent system economy. Before you just go collect a dollar at a certain rate, you go and just exchange it. I believe they have abolished it now. They have done it. But why is it maintaining so much? Because we're not running a dollarized economy. But that is what is happening now. Now, when you don't prevent the corruption within a certain political circle, all they do is they have so much naira. What's the first thing they do? They change to dollar and keep.
To make it easier to move.
Thank you. And keep putting pressure on your economy. Then once in a while, the ICPC and EFCC will do some arrests to recover, you understand? But the enabler, which is central bank now, has not done enough on those financial institutions, the deposit money banks, and particularly the BDCs, Bureau de Change, on ensuring there is effective regulation for money laundering and illicit financial flows.
I'm just wondering what else we need to do. Where are the loopholes, the areas where the loose is loose, and we need to tighten them? Because, like you agreed, we have the Bureau of Public Procurement. It was a well thought out idea that procurement has always been a challenge to government. And that was what brought up the idea of Bureau of Public Procurement. And I would say that it's not working or what? Or the news is not tighten enough.
You see, now, if you look at our accountability structures, now the legal frameworks are solid. Anyway, you want to assess them.
So they said that we even hear some foreign countries want to even borrow from our experience as far as the legal regimes are concerned.
Yes.
Not the practicability or the implementation.
Yes. So you look at the legal framework, you find that they're excellent, near excellent. You also look at the institutional framework where we know how to build nice buildings, overstaff them. It's not staff that will overstaff them, will competent and incompetent ones, bureaucracy.
That had nothing to results.
Yes, fill them up. But something I like, there's this tool, the Financial Action Task Force use in measuring money laundering. So they'll tell you there's technical compliance and there's effectiveness. So these other two I mentioned to you, they are technical compliance issues. It is easier to have laws, to have buildings, to have staff, to train. Okay, what is the effectiveness in all those issues? That's where you find that we are dropping. And the reason for that is you find that countries that have similar technical compliance, but are doing very well in effectiveness, and which will have similar ranking, but we're doing poorly in effectiveness, is not the political involvement in these things.
Not about the people of the two systems.
No. It's a political problem.
It takes people to make that other aid to deliver results at this other aid.
Exactly.
So perhaps that is where the problem are.
No, not really.
It's not where the problem is.
Not really.
Okay.
Now, if you are driving to your office now, and you beat the traffic light, I can assure you, you may beat traffic light and nothing may happen.
Yes.
Now, if you do that same thing in, let's say, the UK now, we like to use foreign examples. Let's use that again. There is certainty of consequence.
If you are not caught immediately, it is recorded somewhere, and in a matter of time,
now that's it.
You will be held accountable.
Now that's the difference. You find that.
So what is that? Is it the people or the system?
The governance issue. The accountability. We do not want rule of law is just not rule of law. Where there are no consequences for behavior. That is one. Two, we do not penalize incompetence. It's only, well, not only in Nigeria, but we're speaking about Nigeria now. Where somebody will be appointed, he will serve 4 years, do nothing, fail. He may not have stolen any money. It's very possible. But he has not failed in discharging the mandate of that organization or that MDO of that state. And he just walks away free, even with pension and gratuity. So we are not penalizing incompetence, meaning it is okay to not to perform. Meanwhile, today, if your mechanic takes your car, let's go down to our level, fixes a fuel pump and it doesn't work, you call him back to fix it and replace it. And if he doesn't do it, there's some measure of consequence. Now, but our governance is in a way that you just come, do your term and leave. Now, those are the things we need to fix. And the people to fix those things are the citizens.
So how do we ensure
demanding more accountability? What you are doing here, what other media houses are doing. But I will not sit here and tell you that the citizens too, the political class are not capturing the citizens. You can see they are almost, they infuse tribal issues, religious issues to be capturing. You can see most of our religious institutions, they have penetrated them. They are penetrating the judiciary everywhere and all over the world. Politicians try to capture everywhere for their self-interest. That is the way they are built. So it's when, but the only difference, or the major difference, not only, is when citizens continue to demand accountability. You can see now, I know you are coming there on this foreign intervention, whatever that problematic name.
We are getting closer to that.
Yes. You can see because there is consistency in demand. I can see the media houses have refused to let it go. You can see they keep shifting.
We are just waiting for another issue to another big issue to happen.
Yes.
And then this one takes the back seat.
The span is usually 2 weeks, but this has elapsed more than 2 weeks.
Because nothing else as big as that.
To replace it.
Yes. Osun has been in between, but it comes and goes, they probably until after the election.
Yes. But if we sustain it, you find that now, even if you don't get...
That's the problem. Sustaining that kind of campaign. The media itself probably may get wearied. The people may become uninterested.
Yeah.
And all of that. And then you're also talking to people who appear to be, quote unquote, conquered economically.
Yes.
Economically. When people are struggling for survival, how do you preach to them to hold government accountable?
Now, then the narrative should change. The narrative should change in the terms that to show the people that that person or that government person taking those money is not his money, is your money.
That is the one responsible for what you are going through.
Yes, that is your money he's taking. Because if you notice most cases, let's say by the EFCC now, I can just use a few examples. When they take the person to court, you find that his village people come and protest on his behalf because they see that alliance with him. He's for my tribe, or he's for my local government, or whatever.
Particularly if he's doing one or two
palliatives
here and there.
Rice, Maggi, spaghetti, and all of that, you know. So, but you see, that is the link they have identified with him. Now, what we all need to do is not government work, is to now start thinking the minds of Nigerians. Now, when there is a bad road, when there's a bad hospital, when there's whatever you see bad, there's somebody that he did something or did not do. Because I don't like the
consequence of somebody not doing something or doing something wrong.
Yes, because we are so comfortable with incompetence in this country that nobody, you just see incompetence and not even corruption, and people just do their 4 years and leave. So the citizens now, once they ask questions, because when is their own? That is why I'm a strong proponent of tax reforms. Now, when I mean tax, I'm not talking about increasing tax only, but let everybody pay tax so that when you are paying, that's why now we'll make
that pay that
yes,
this is coming from your pocket.
Exactly.
Money that you probably would have used to enjoy yourself, you have to pay to government as tax.
Yes. So no matter how much you pay, even if it's 100 naira a year, you will not feel that is why you are not involved, and nobody will just come and take your money and just go and enjoy himself. That is what will be the major driver, and I think that's the thing we need to do. There should be wider taxes for everybody. Should pay tax for the purpose of anti-corruption and for you to, in fact, to even help in building our nationalism. Because when you are paying tax, you will not allow anybody just to play with your funds anyway. Thank you.
You much earlier you alluded to one area in which where for you we are doing well. You said asset recovery that we are doing well, and we actually do well in terms of asset recovery. Somebody has acquired maybe hundreds of assets. At the end of the day, you took back maybe 40, 45 from him. Is that a pass back? Because there are still some hidden assets that that person still goes away with at the end of the day.
Like I said, don't discount the level. It might look minimal, but I believe it is high. Especially in terms of local asset recovery, there's a lot of recovery going on. Now, if you look at percentage of, if you just even take the procurement data of how much you lose through procurement fraud and the asset recovery, it will look minimal. I agree with you. But we are doing well comparatively to almost every other country in the world. It's very difficult to recover assets. Now, what we might not be doing well, even international asset recovery, I think we're number one. But I'll still tell you, we shouldn't be clapping for ourselves in the international asset recovery, because it means, why is the money going out in the first place?
Exactly.
Why is it even going out?
The asset that goes out of the public, the way is just too much.
It's too much.
It's too much compared to what we are able to track back and get back.
Agreed. So, but what the data shows in international asset recovery, it is high. So let's just stick to that data. But we need to do a lot more to stop it from even happening in the first place. Let's not go and be clapping for ourselves that are doing well in asset recovery, where now you have a system. Now, if you open any newspaper today, tomorrow, or yesterday, you will see 15 billion naira missing, let's say, from a particular MDE. The thing that should scare you, how do you have a system with all these accountability mechanisms, checks and balances, supposedly National Assembly, and 15 billion? Now I'm just using
is able to slip through all of this.
Now it's when there is disagreement between parties, the whistleblower will come up. That is when it happens. But the mechanism itself has not detected the preventive mechanism. So it's after whistle has been blown, the ICPC and EFCC jump to do some recoveries and some prosecution. But we are not looking at those accountability mechanisms BPP, Central Bank of Nigeria, Code of Conduct Bureau, Auditor General of the Federation, all of them, they are all just not functioning well. We have technology systems, IPPIs, GIVMEs, we are supposed to be doing procurement online. All those is why are they happening, why are they not happening? Those are the major enablers of all the bleeding we see today. And those are the things we have to fix, and not to be distracted by EFCC, ICPC. Those are the issues. Okay. I'll take you to, no,
just go.
I'll take you to an issue now. People, let's say, look at our data on drug trafficking.
Okay.
We used to be a transit route 15, 20 years ago. Now we're a major route to, apart from transiting, we're consuming. Now, I don't have any data, but if you look at the effect on drugs on the Nigerian economy, is not something, I've not seen any research yet, but it's horrible, because there are, what do you call these houses for? Rehab houses that are filled up to the brim. There's so much pressure on the medical system. Now that is drugs. If you go to arms, also the last data, the last report that was around 2017, so it's a bit outdated, but over 70% of arms, small and light weapons, small and light weapons, because there's a difference.
Yeah.
In West Africa, over 70% are in Nigeria. Now,
isn't that why we have not been able to overcome our security challenges, banditry, terrorism, and insurgency?
Now, if you speak to the government people, every little thing they'll tell you, Libya. Now, don't forget, Libya is bordering about 5 countries. But those countries,
there are so many places you pass. Some of those countries will pass through them before you get to Nigeria.
Thank you. But those countries don't have those challenges. Why? It's a national border security issue. So you see why prevention is very important. But we'll be here building rehab houses, collecting arms here and there, seizing some arms. We'll be saying, okay, we seize 30,000 arms this year. But you have not secured your border the way those 5 countries, that's if it is Libya. And Libya happened over 10 years ago. Now, those countries have secured their borders. Why have you not secured your border? Now, you now jump to who is responsible for national border security. Primarily is the Nigerian Customs Service. Now, you have a customs service that you now tell the government is distracted by telling customs go and generate revenue for government. You see where the political class coming, because their eyes are on the funds. Customs will try and go and generate, let's say 6 trillion naira every year. What do? We clap for them that they have generated 6 trillion.
Yeah, but there's a major responsibility that they are not focusing on.
Thank you. Now the money,
border security.
Thank you. Now the money you're spending on your national security, because of those arms that have come in, the money you are spending on your healthcare system, because of the drugs that are coming in, the money you are spending on the human trafficking element, even though that is more tilted towards the Nigerian Immigration Service, because they are more responsible for human security, border security now. Now the spending, just these 3 I've given you. Let's not talk about fake goods. All the drinks we take that are fake, affecting the healthcare system, people having kidney failure, liver issues, fake food, fake everything, the bottling, all this are border security issues. That will wipe out
all the efforts at revenue generation.
Yes.
That the custom had to dissipate almost 90% of its energy on.
Thank you, sir.
I get the problem.
Yes. So you see, that's why we have to be rethinking these things, just not to be looking at the problem, arrest here, confiscation here, they'll burn down this year. All those things will not work until you address a coherent, have a national border security issue. So that is what you need to do for your security on all these factors, and the same thing for your corruption.
Let me take you back to the issue of asset recovery. Part of why I think that we are not doing well, or maybe an area that we also need to beam a searchlight on, we have failed to probably have a system of managing assets recovered from supposedly corrupt persons, proceeds of crime. We have not been able to have a system of managing it and all of that. And what fallout of that, one major fallout of that, is that it has become possible But people were entrusted with the system to reloot those recovered assets. And when I say people who are entrusted, including very highly placed persons, are able to reloot the loot because they alone have custody of the recovered assets.
No, honestly, Sam, and that is too propagandist. You know, it's propaganda when you just say looted assets. If you really don't look at the details. Now, if asset is being recovered by an anti-corruption agency, EFCC, ICPC, I like using them as an example. Now, that asset only belongs either to the state. Let's say it was taken from Abia State, Kaduna State, whatever, so it goes back to the state. Now, because the accountability mechanisms we'll be talking about have not been addressed, it will still be taken again. So if you say reloot, it sounds like, okay, the particular thing was brought back, it was taken. No, the issues have not been addressed, so it's the same corruption taking place.
No, but of recent, we've had cases of relooting.
Like which ones, sir? Sorry.
I'm not so sure whether you have forgotten about the spat between the dead EFCC chairman, Ibrahim Bago, and the dead Attorney General of the Federation.
It's not a relooting issue.
There were aspects of relooting because part of Bago's allegation against the dead Attorney General of the Federation was that there were assets recovered by the EFCC. And then what the EFCC could do, or the structures of the Attorney General, either those assets had been disposed of or they couldn't be traced again. He made that allegation over and over and over again. It was the source of dispute between the office of the EFCC chairman and the office of the Attorney General of the Federation. And we thought that Bago was just crying wolf for nothing. But the events that are happening now to the dead Attorney General clearly establishes the fact that yes, something went wrong. Because those assets that the former Attorney General recently forfeited were assets acquired within that period that he was supposed to be Attorney General of the Federation and doing no other work other than serving Nigeria.
Yes, sir. So you see, there are lots of mix-up in the issues now. Sorry. Now, the issue is who disposes of the assets.
Yes.
That's what the issue is. These anti-corruption agencies recover the assets. So now, what the political issue was, who should dispose? Because that's where the corruption interest comes in. About kickbacks, about who gets what asset, who are we discounting? Because, you can recover the asset of 1 billion, but because it's government now, they sell it to somebody they like at 200 million.
Or sell it back to the same people who recover them.
So it is the process issue that was the issue. So the anti-corruption agency...
It's not a big issue. Because it made it easy for people to profiteer from it.
You see, if you notice, I'm being careful of who to apportion blame with because it's neither here or there. Now, if you leave it...
And all of that happened because we don't have a system. For instance, part of the OCAP, United Nations Convention Against part of the OCAP requirement is that we should have an asset management agency that is different from the agency that is saddled with recovery. That is saddled with the agency for prosecution. But we don't have that.
No, sir.
Do we?
Asset recovery, disposal, and management system is not the same as an asset recovery and management agency. Now, if you have a system that is effective and it works, you see, these international bodies do not push these issues on countries. They will just give you the framework to comply with. So if you have a system that works, look at the Financial Intelligence Unit. We have 3 different types of system. But there's an administrative one. There are some domiciled in law enforcement, some domiciled in anti-corruption, some are purely administrative. And you go to countries that the admin FIU works, while in some countries it has to be domiciled in law enforcement. And you would agree with me now. Let's use the Nigeria example. I'll come back to a question. The Nigeria example. A financial intelligence unit within the law enforcement works better because of our peculiarity. But when you take it out, you be having even interagency cooperation issues because it's out of the system. So back to your asset recovery issue. Now, when it is who you give the power to of disposal, if the system works, the international community does not have a problem with. But Nigeria, when you take assets, recovered assets by anti-corruption agencies, take them and give an independent or agency now, controlled by the political class, you are going to have a problem. Ordinarily, it shouldn't be a problem.
Shouldn't we have one that is not controlled by the political class? Or how do we have one that is a big vista that I've opened? Because I'm going to be also listen all those anti-corruption agencies that, particularly those that have prosecutorial powers and all of that, and all the massive assets they have been recovering, or things that should ordinarily be proceeds of crime that should come back to the federation account, but don't find their ways back to the federation account. I'm going to list some of them for you, including the police.
Yes. And
how those assets are wasting away, and those that are not wasting away, people are helping themselves to them.
Yes.
But let's I'm told that we need to take a breather.
Okay.
We'll go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll just pick up from there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT, on air, online, online.
Program is Jigsaw. Our guest is Dr. Umar Yakubu. Dr. Yakubu is Executive Director, Center for Fiscal Transparency and Public Integrity. And today, our attention is still very much on the issue of corruption and how to at least reduce it to the barest minimum. Because I'm not aware of any country that has completely exterminated corruption.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I was talking about asset management and why I believe that we are not doing well. At least some of the anti-corruption agencies, many of them that also recover assets and we ought to have a very transparent way of disposing of these assets and the proceeds, which are termed proceeds of crime, to find its way back to the public coffers, but they don't. Let's start with the number one of them, the oldest, probably the police. You go to different police stations, you see assets that are supposed to be proceeds of crime wasting away. Doesn't have a way, the nation is not benefiting from such recovered assets. If you leave police, go to custom. Goods are seized in the name of Nigeria. Goods that ought to be properly disposed of and the proceeds plowed back into the economy through the federation account that left to waste away. Before you know it, some disappear into thin air and all of that. That's not a good way of managing recovered assets. If you live there, go to EFCC. Up to some point, there's a place opposite the National Mosque.
Yeah.
You see exotic vehicles that are rotting away. These were things recovered from allegedly corrupt persons who didn't manage. Go around major cities, you see buildings that are bad, stay away, EFCC and all of that. Such assets are left to rotting and nothing happens. That is not a good way of managing recovered assets.
Very true, very true. And I agree with you to the extent where the office of the Attorney General is an administrative office. Now, if you I agree with your premise. The law enforcement agencies, the police, customs, EFCC, ICPC, are not doing well in terms of the management of those assets, and they could do better, especially now that they have.
I don't do too much. If you saddle them with the responsibility of managing such recovered assets, shouldn't that be the responsibility of another agency?
No.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Right.
And my reasons are this. Right. Your fear, I'm going to confirm that your fear from your premise. If you take those things and give it to a new agency, neutral, controlled by the political class, your fears will be worsened. That is the problem. What we have is not good enough. It's not good enough. There are better ways of managing those assets. But you now take those same things, give a so-called independent agency to manage and control. That looks very good on paper. But the political class is the problem. That is the problem, because they determine who is appointed there. Yeah. Two, they'll be involved in anti-corruption legal issues. You understand? Because of their prism of thinking is asset. One, it is a chain. It's a chain. Anti-corruption is a chain of prosecution, recovery, and all of those things. So this is the problem. If you want to have a hybrid model, what the Office of the Attorney General should do is to effectively supervise. Now, back to competence issue. Why should an agency, any one of them, police, EFCC, ICPC, have cars or buildings dilapidating every year without consequence? That is what the policy issue should be. You shouldn't leave those assets just to be rotting away. So that same office now that will have those assets, maybe the new office or agency, is if it behaves the same way, because that consequence is not there, that is the problem. Now, if it were an asset,
because it will be sole duty of that agency, don't you think that it will change a little bit? Because that will be the only responsibility that agency has, managing those assets. Mm-hmm. For example, if a hotel was fully functional, where you confiscated it from an alleged corrupt person, mm-hmm. when you confiscate it from there should be a better way of running it and making it profitable, rather than close it down, put it on a lock and key, and just put red ink on it and leave it. So if another agency that has that as the only responsibility they have, and they are focusing on things like that, and they will be the ones that will, okay, this hotel is confiscated, okay, let's look for a manager to run it. And that is the only responsibility that agency has. Can't we isn't it easier to hold them responsible?
I agree with you in terms of...
Isn't that way to address the fear you raised about the political class hijacking the mode of appointment?
No.
Because it is the same political class that is also responsible for the appointment of those other agency heads.
But it is harder now, because all those agencies you mentioned now have an asset recovery department, or we call it POCA department. I'm not sure of the name. Process of Crime Department, sorry. They all have it. They are supposed to address these issues. But I'm telling you, the major issue is the weak supervision from the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation. All this duplication of agencies, some are good. I advocate for a National Border Security Agency, though I don't support duplication of agencies, but I believe we should have a dedicated National Border Security Agency to pull for customs, immigration, and other agencies because of the border issues. But for assets, assets is money. And this political class, everywhere there is money, they are attracted, they trace it. Don't forget, they even wanted to do something around the pension funds. They just saw trillions. They don't understand the enabling law, put there everything. They were trying to borrow. To borrow. Thank you. So that is the fear. So in principle, it looks very good. A dedicated agency with professionals in asset management and disposal, will do this professionally. But I believe for now, with the kind of political class we have now, have the Attorney General to be more responsible and more competent in ensuring that all these agencies are effectively implementing the Process of Crime Act 2022. These problems will be reduced.
Should we then have an Attorney General that is also an appointee of the President? Or we should have an Office of Attorney General that Nigerians can hold responsible because he knows his loyalty to Nigerians?
Not only, I agree with you, and not only Attorney General. The moment you concede some very important positions to politics, that's where we have problems. Attorney General should be nowhere near political. It should come from the system. Auditor General, very important. Central Bank Governor, you should not appoint an outsider. You could be within the financial sector, being a regulatory person, maybe with NDIC, with SEC, with NICOM, with Central Bank of Nigeria, but there's no how you have seasoned economy managers. You want to bring a politician from outside or one former bank chairman from outside and to come and govern the economy. These are serious. Now imagine if you get a politician from outside to come and become IG of police. That's what we're doing with Attorney General, Accountant General. Yes, they are in the space. But the system is built around an institution. So bringing outside people is problematic. Have your Minister of Justice, political, fine. But Attorney General should be a serious position, very serious position that it shouldn't be subject to the political whims of whoever is appointing the person.
Okay, before we move to the FPIPC, which I want us to conclude with, is there, what can we do about the recovered assets? Because each time I pass through some assets that were live up until EFCC recover them, and then you see what they have become. I feel so pained that, I mean, how can a functioning hotel, for instance, have suddenly become run down, has become a place to be inhabited by homeless people and all of that. You seize a school, you close it down, the everything becomes dilapidated over time and all of that. What do we do in the interim?
The Minister of Justice or Attorney General of the Federation should issue regulations, which I think he has, to ensure the examples you give do not happen. And if any agency flouts his regulations, he has the power to take action on that particular agency. It's very simple. Do not allow an asset to dilapidate. Do not allow an asset to waste away. It's a simple governance issue, not creating an agency issue. That is why I don't want us to rush towards those things.
On reflection too, I also think that we have too many bureaucracies already. And it's because we have too many bureaucracies, that's why we don't even know which ones are legal and which ones are not legal. Which one, at what point did we establish this one? If we established this one yesterday, isn't there something close to that has been existing for the past 10 years? That brings me to the issue of Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council, where this issue broke out. What was your initial reaction to?
You can see I've been struggling even with the
name. Exactly. You keep from the name, ABBA.
Is problematic. If you look at the name, Presidential.
I
know the name.
Okay.
Presidential Foreign Intervention Promotion Council. What are they intervening in? Yeah, just assuming it's
investment. And you are promoting.
Yeah, assuming it's investment. Okay. Now, foreign intervention in normal nature is actually military intervention. If you see foreign intervention, it's militaristic in nature, but it's not militaristic, we know. So you see, these people, when they're thinking of siphoning our money, they don't even think deep enough to even know how to steal it properly, you understand? So the name is problematic to start with. Now, if it's investment promotion, we are now assuming. I don't know whether you know. I'm assuming.
That's what we can also assume that from the long name.
You see now, you have the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission. You have the Nigerian Export Promotion Commission. You have embassies that have consular desks, commercial desks. I'm not sure of the name. Commercial officers to promote foreign
direct investment.
Thank you.
We also have the Nigerian Diaspora Commission. We also have a portfolio for letting Nigerians in diaspora know what is available in Nigeria to invest in. That's a kind of investment promotion.
So you see the problem of creating more agencies. Now you have these 5 we have mentioned. You now just wake up one morning, see one loose Presidential Economic Advisory Council, tweak the name, because I don't believe you can create, it might be possible, but I don't believe you can create a fake agency at the federal level. It's nearly impossible because of this bureaucracy.
Agency, you need a law to also back it up.
Thank you very much. But for councils, I think maybe the president has some power here, there, they wriggle their way out. Now you change the name of a Presidential Economic Advisory Council and give it this funny name. On TV, on AIT, we have seen he had
And
meetings.
the longer it is, the better.
Yes.
So that I can confuse everybody.
Yes. He has had meetings with diplomats. He has had an office in the office of the
Federal Secretariat of Governance.
He moves with policemen, meaning he has a car. Now something went wrong somewhere from the initiation. What we're seeing all this media is the surface. They want to hang one person or two people. There is initiation from somewhere, which I don't know, maybe you don't know as well, but somebody initiated that thing, and that person should be held responsible.
How do we find that person? How do we dig deep till we get to that person and see his heart that, okay, this is so person's house?
Well, they want to distract us. I learned that there is a National
That's what is
Assembly.
going to happen when the National Assembly is pulling in this direction. ICPC is pulling in another direction as the directive of the president. Police said they have done investigations since last year. They even charged this man to court. Since last year, he was charged to court last year.
Yeah.
So upon what basis was he charged to court? That means the police already established some things.
Yes.
What was it that the police established? Did they not dig deep to see the man behind that praise at the end or so? Yeah. All of this flurry of activities, everybody doing in different direction. It's to confuse us and distract us until we get tired.
Yes. Well, I agree with you. So after maybe in 2 weeks now, we all forget, then they move on. That's I agree with you. That's it. Another
Just like you to conclude, I've been told that we have just about a minute.
Yes, I noticed. Yeah, it's just that the only thing I need to conclude of this corruption is that citizens just need to know that these funds belong to them, and the more we're aware, the more these corruption issues may hopefully reduce. But we'll continue to do our bit, you and I. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Dr. Umar Yakubu, thank you. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Yakubu is the Executive Director, Center for Fiscal Transparency and Public Integrity. Is an anti-corruption expert. He's joined us on today's edition of Jigsaw to look at corruption. Really very grateful for your time.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you too for investing your time with us. We hope to see you next time. Do enjoy the rest of the day. On behalf of the team, my name is Benga Aruleba. I'll see you around.
The World Health Organization, WHO, raised its alarm that current Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo could become the deadliest outbreak of the disease ever recorded. Russian drone attack hits passenger train in southern Ukraine, killing 2 crew members. And Japanese nationals protest Russian president's visit to disputed Coney Island. Hello there, this is the World News on AIT. I am Enemaku Ojochegbe. Welcome. The World Health Organization, WHO, has warned that the current Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo could become the deadliest outbreak of the disease ever recorded. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said the 2026 outbreak at its current pace could surpass the 2014 to 2016 epidemic, which killed at least 11,000 people. The outbreak was officially declared on May 15, but health officials believe the virus began spreading months earlier. More than 4,300 cases and over 2,000 deaths have been reported so far. WHO officials say they hope to bring transmission under control within 3 months, although they stress that this will not mean the outbreak has ended. The outbreak is caused by the rare Bundibugyo species of Ebola, which has previously been responsible for only 2 known outbreaks. There is currently no approved vaccine or recognized treatment specifically for this strain. Health officials also say regional instability in eastern DR Congo is making the response more difficult, with medical teams reportedly reaching only about 30% of cases. Ebola is a highly dangerous viral disease that spreads through contact with infected bodily fluids. Symptoms can include fever, headaches, and fatigue, followed by vomiting and diarrhea. It can lead to organ failure. The disease can develop between 2 and 21 days after infection. There is, however, progress towards developing new treatments and vaccines. The UK's medicines regulator has approved human trials of a Bundibugyo vaccine being developed by Oxford University using technology from the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID vaccine. 3 other vaccine candidates are also being developed, while the WHO is sponsoring a separate trial in the DR Congo to determine whether 2 existing antiviral drugs can improve survival rates. Now, on Thursday, Zambia went to the polls with economic hardship testing President Hakainde Hichilema's record as he seeks his second term to govern the copper-rich nation. Polling stations in the southern African nation opened at 6 a.m. and were due to close 12 hours later, with 8.7 million voters registered to cast their ballots.
Some Zambians say they're frustrated, and this election is a 50-50. That is why they are all here at the polling station to make the change. Richie Malupumbe, 26, is among hundreds who broke the morning chill to queue at polling stations well before they opened. Hakainde Hichilema, 64, won a first 5-year term in 2021 and his sixth run for the post, and is betting on job creation and ambitious infrastructure drive to secure re-election. While inflation fell to 6.8% in April and the kwacha currency has strengthened, many still face high food and energy costs. The country is long regarded as one of Africa's more stable democracies, but has come under scrutiny over concerns that Hichilema's government has narrowed the space for dissent, even as it promises stronger economic recovery. The president's main challenger in a field of 13 other hopefuls is Brian Mundubile, a 55-year-old former minister in the Patriotic Front government that ruled from 2011 to 2021. Backed by an alliance of opposition parties, Mundubile is running under the newly formed NRP-UP party, which draws much of its political base from the PF. He entered the race in May, injecting uncertainty into a contest that had long appeared to be Hichilema's to lose. Describing Zambia as deeply divided, the 55-year-old Mundubile told newsmen on Wednesday that the government had tightened restrictions on his party's campaign and the run-up to the votes could not be considered free and fair. Africa's second largest copper producer, Zambia, defaulted on its sovereign debt in 2020. Since then, the government has secured a debt restructuring, completed an IMF-supported program, and set an ambitious 2031 target to triple production of copper, crucial to the green energy transition.
Britain's economic growth slowed in the second quarter compared with the first 3 months of the year, official data showed on Thursday, as the country faced political unrest at home and fallout from the Middle East war. Gross domestic product increased 0.4% in the April-June period after an expansion of 0.6% in the first quarter, the Office for National Statistics said in a statement.
Britain's economy continued to grow in the second quarter of 2026, although growth slowed compared with the strong start to the year. The latest figures from the Office for National Statistics show that economic activity remained relatively robust despite ongoing inflation and pressure on household finances. The economic challenges come as the Labour government undergoes a major political transition. Keir Starmer resigned as Prime Minister in late June and was replaced about a month later by Andy Bonham after Labour lost ground in opinion polls to the right-wing Reform UK party. Finance Minister John Healey said the new government will focus on putting British interests first, supporting people struggling with the rising cost of living, and strengthening the country's economic resilience. He acknowledged that millions of Britons remain concerned about high prices and the additional pressure facing businesses. The latest data show that Britain's services sector grew by 0.5% in the second quarter, while construction also expanded. However, production remained unchanged, contributing to the overall slowdown in economic growth compared with the beginning of 2026. The government is also facing renewed concerns over the cost of living following soaring energy prices linked to the US-Iran conflict. Healey said people were worried about the impact of the Middle East conflict on their household budgets, while ONS Economic Statistics Director Liz McKeon said growth has slowed but remained relatively strong.
Russia's President Vladimir Putin visited Russia's far eastern Kuril Islands on Thursday for the first time, prompting a strong protest by Japan, which also claimed the territory. Russian-Japanese relations have long been dogged by tensions over the contested islands, known in Japan as the Northern Territories, and seized by the Soviet Union in 1945.
The Kremlin posted a video of Putin on one of the country's 4 main islands, with Russian media saying he visited a fish processing plant and was given caviar. Putin traveled to the countries after visiting the nearby Russian island of Sakhalin on Wednesday, where Russia's navy was conducting drills. RIA Novosti said in Sakhalin, Putin 73 held a meeting on ensuring the security of Russia's eastern borders. Ties have worsened since the full-scale conflict in Ukraine began in 2022, with Japan joining other G7 countries in sanctioning Russia and giving money and non-lethal defense aid to Kyiv. Putin on Wednesday called Japan's sanctions unprovoked. Russia and China have also moved closer with their navies and air forces conducting joint exercises in areas around Japan, promoting Japanese jets to scrambling hundreds of times a year. North Korea, which this month termed Japan's military build-up a transformation into a war state, has also sent troops and artillery shells to help Russia's war against Ukraine. Japan's latest defense white paper issued this month again highlighted growing risk from all 3 countries. The New York Times reported in July that Russia had turned Japan into a den of spies and a key source of dual-use technology needed for its war in Ukraine. The Soviet Union took the strategic located volcanic archipelago north of Hokkaido in the final days of World War II and has maintained a military presence there ever since. In 2010, then-President Dmitry Medvedev became the first Russian leader to visit the disputed territory. Medvedev also went there several times, subsequently as Prime Minister. The 4 contested isles are part of the volcanic curved archipelago, which runs in a broad arc from Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula down to Japan's main northern island, Hokkaido.
And in the same vein, a Russian drone attack on a passenger train in southern Ukraine has killed 2 crew members, according to Ukrainian officials. The train carrying about 340 people was targeted in the Odessa region, with Ukrainian authorities describing the incident as an attack on a civilian transport service.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russian forces had destroyed the train's locomotive with a jet-powered drone. He argued that the operator of the drone would have known the target was a civilian passenger train and called the attack deliberate. The chief executive of Ukraine's state railway operator said one of the passengers were injured. Footage released by Ukrainian emergency services showed flames engulfing the front of the train, with the locomotive's cab badly damaged. Ukraine says Russian forces have repeatedly targeted railway infrastructure during the war, which has now lasted 4.5 years. Kyiv says the attacks are intended to disrupt military logistics while also putting civilians at risk. Zelensky has renewed his appeal for increased international support, particularly additional air defense systems and stronger pressure on Russia. The latest strike comes as Ukraine continues to rely heavily on its railway network to transport passengers and maintain vital connections across the country.
Now, Romania began Thursday the complete shutdown of its only nuclear plant after water levels in the Danube used to cool the site fell to a record low, the National Nuclear Energy Company has said. Nuclear Electrica already shut down last month one of the 2 reactors at the Ceranova power plant, which usually generates a fifth of the Eastern European country's total electricity.
Romania has begun shutting down the second reactor at the Chernavoda nuclear plant because of a significant and continuing fall in the water level of the Danube River. Operator Nuclear Electrica said the controlled shutdown of Unit 2 began on Thursday, 13th August 2026. The plant has 2 reactors, each producing about 700 megawatts of electricity, and Romania had been working for days to prevent a complete shutdown. Authorities attempted to redirect the river's flow by blasting a rock and placing 4 barges filled with rocks in the Danube at the cost of more than 2 million euros. The shutdown was the first at the Chernavoda plant since a severe drought in 2003 when the facility was forced to close for several weeks. The reactors rely on the Danube for cooling, making the unusually low water levels a major challenge for the nuclear facility. Romania's energy ministry says alternative sources including wind power and electricity imports are expected to help maintain the country's power supply. Authorities have also appealed to consumers to use electricity responsibly as the country faces the effects of the prolonged drought. The Danube has experienced exceptionally low water levels following heat waves and a lack of rainfall across Europe. According to Copernicus, nearly 2/3 of the river recorded its lowest July flow rates in 34 years of measurements. Scientists say human-caused climate change has intensified the current drought and warn that such conditions could become increasingly severe.
Israeli forces have moved against Israeli settlers who have been besieging Palestinian families near Nablus in the occupied West Bank. The settlers have blocked access to homes since on Sunday, cutting residents off from food and other supplies, including one property owned by a U.S. citizen. The action comes amid unusually strong criticism from Washington. U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Mike Huckabee, a longtime supporter of Israel settlements, condemned the settlers' actions as unacceptable and said there was no excuse for such thuggish behavior. He said Israel intervened after a request from the United States. The Israeli military said it carried out a second operation overnight, dismantling 2 settlers' outposts and detaining 1 Israeli. However, witnesses said some settlers remained in the surrounding area while the Palestinian homes were still sealed off by Israeli forces. Aisha Hassan, one of the residents trapped inside, said families were unable to receive food and essential supplies. The mayor of Kusra, Abdel Azim Wadi, said the military had issued temporary eviction orders for the Palestinian homes as it continued its operation against the settlers. The crackdown took place as Israeli officials, including Defense Minister Israel Katz, celebrated the reopening of a settlement at Ghanim in the northern West Bank. The settlement was dismantled more than 2 decades ago under a disengagement plan. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government has approved its reconstruction as it seeks support from its hard-right political base ahead of elections scheduled for October 27. The criticism from Huckabee is particularly notable because of his long-standing support for Jewish settlements in the West Bank and his opposition to a Palestinian state. Settlement expansion and settler violence have increased sharply since the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7, 2023. The latest events highlight the growing tensions over Israeli settlement policy and violence against Palestinians in the occupied territory. Still on to the world news on AIT. We'll take a break at this point. When we come back, there'll be more stories. Don't go away.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT on air, online, online.
Thanks for staying with us. If you're just tuning in, this is the world news on AIT. Taiwan has condemned China's plan to hold a Navy drill with Indonesia off the Democratic Island's east coast, saying Beijing seeks to create the false impression that it has jurisdiction over the area. China claims Taiwan is part of its territory and insists it has authority over the waters surrounding the island, which Taipei rejects.
China's defense ministry says a Chinese warship and an Indonesian frigate will conduct a naval passage exercise east of Taiwan in mid-August. Beijing says the exercise is aimed at strengthening the two navies' operational capabilities and promoting regional peace and stability. Taiwan has strongly condemned the planned exercise, accusing China of using the move to create the impression that it has jurisdiction over waters east of Taiwan. Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council described the exercise as a military provocation and a violation of the island's sovereignty and maritime rights. Indonesia, however, says the exercise is part of a normal naval tradition. Indonesian Navy spokesman Tengku said the frigate is conducting passage exercises with countries it encounters while returning from Vladivostok, Russia, and stressed that such activities are not intended for warfare. The announcement comes as Taiwan conducts its largest military drills of the year to prepare for a possible Chinese invasion. China has also increased military and Coast Guard activity around Taiwan, including patrols near its eastern coast and traffic controls in the Taiwan Strait. Taipei has described these actions as provocative and a threat to international maritime norms.
Colombia's earthquake rescue efforts entered what officials call the final phase on Wednesday as rescuers searched for signs of life beneath collapsed buildings before the critical first 72 hours came to an end. The magnitude 7.4 quake, the strongest to hit Colombia this century, has killed 265 people, injured more than 3,500, and left almost 500 missing, according to local authorities.
In the city of Pereira, crews focused on collapsed bakery, where they believe a street vendor trapped since Monday earthquake may still be alive beneath the rubble. Using equipment that detects vibrations, rescuers said they had picked up possible signs of life from Pablo Loaiza, prompting actions relatives to gather outside the wreckage. Relatives said the trapped man appeared to respond when rescuers asked him to knock twice, then 3 times, from beneath the rubble, drawing applause from those gathered at the scene. Crews are approaching 72 hours since the quake, a period when survivors are considered most likely to be found alive beneath collapsed buildings. In Cali and Pereira, emergency crews prepared to walk through a third night. With their bare hands, cranes and sniffer dogs, a volunteer rescuer, Joanna Sanchez, told reporter that every hour they make everyone to be quiet to see if they can find people alive. He said, so far, 3 people have been pulled out alive and 3 dead. Colombia's newly installed president has declared the disaster an economic emergency and announced 3 days of national mourning. According to official figures, more than 11,000 dwellings have been destroyed and thousands of families have been rendered homeless. Many have already spent consecutive nights outdoors, either because their homes were damaged or because they feared aftershocks. In the mountain town of Cairo, residents gathered at community kitchens on Tuesday, while power outages persisted and many remained reluctant to return homes. In nearby Rodinalo, Juliana Mendes picked through the wreckage of the beauty product store where she worked, one of the many businesses damaged in the disaster. She said, it's like starting all over from the scratch.
Now introducing a Finder tag, an upgraded watch that checks for respiratory problems and the latest artificial intelligence superpowers in smartphones, Google on Wednesday will unveil its newest Pixel offerings. The tech giant has organized a press launch event in New York to present the Pixel tag, a rival to the AirTag, a tracking device commercialized by Apple since 2021.
Google has unveiled its latest range of Pixel devices, featuring new artificial intelligence tools and upgraded safety functions. The company introduced the Pixel 11 smartphone, Pixel Watch 5, and a new tracking device designed to help users locate lost valuables such as wallets, keys, and luggage. The new tracking device, priced at $29.99, can connect to Android phones and locate objects with high accuracy. Google says it can even detect when keys have fallen behind the sofa, making it easier for users to find misplaced belongings. The Pixel Watch 5 also comes with new features, including the ability to monitor how many subway stops remain before reaching a destination. It can also automatically pause an audiobook.
Now, day briefly turned to night in Spain on Wednesday as the country witnessed its first total solar eclipse in more than a century, plunging it into eerie darkness in one of nature's greatest spectacles. The spectacle glow of the sun's outer corona shimmering out of the edges of the shadowy moon drew gasps and cheers from huge crowds just 90 minutes after it first appeared in the remote Arctic region of northern Russia.
A rare total solar eclipse has amazed thousands of people across Iceland and Spain, with spectators describing the event as breathtaking and emotional. The eclipse was the first total solar eclipse visible from mainland Europe since 2006, casting a narrow shadow across the Atlantic before reaching northern Spain. In Iceland, the darkness passed over Keflavik and other areas, creating a dramatic moment for tourists and residents. Reykjavik experienced its first total solar eclipse since 1433, with the next one not expected until 2196. In Spain, crowds gathered along the northern coast and the Balearic Islands, while clear skies allowed many to witness the spectacle. The eclipse also attracted major scientific interest. NASA and the European Space Agency live-streamed the event, giving scientists an opportunity to study the sun's atmosphere, solar winds, and magnetic field. The total eclipse lasted only a few minutes, while the partial eclipse was visible for about 1 hour and 45 minutes across much of Europe and parts of North America and Northwest Africa. The event also brought a major economic boost to Spain, with authorities expecting nearly 450,000 additional tourists and hundreds of millions of euros in extra spending. Nearly 25,000 police officers were deployed to manage the crowd and ensure safety. Another total solar eclipse is expected to cross southern Spain and northern Africa in August 2027, followed by an annular ring of fire eclipse in 2028.
Amazing, isn't it? Well, that's the world news on AIT. Thanks a lot for watching. I am Enemaku Ajochegbe.
The number of children dying before their 5th birthday has hit a record low, according to new United Nations estimates. And Malawi is among countries highlighted in a UN report released on Wednesday for making significant reductions in child deaths. It, alongside Cambodia, Rwanda and Mongolia, have all been credited with a more than 75% drop in under-5 mortality since 2000. In the Malawian town of Namitete earlier this year, parents like Secret Gibson were queuing up to get their children vaccinated against malaria, under a new program being rolled out in countries across the continent.
When a child receives the vaccine like this, it means as he grows, he will be a healthy and strong person. But also, as he attains maturity, it's like you have already laid a good foundation for him. Because if you don't take him for the vaccine, the clinic has reservations to treat a child who did not take the jab.
Preventable and treatable causes such as pneumonia, diarrhea and malaria made up the majority of the 4.9 million under-5 deaths in 2022. While that's a halving of the mortality rate since 2000, it also still represents 1 death every 6 seconds. And the UN warned that the world is behind in its goals for reducing preventable deaths by 2030, with progress slowing since 2015. Overall deaths of babies and children under 5 in 2022 were concentrated in sub-Saharan Africa. It represented 57% of the global total, despite only accounting for around 30% of the live births that year. The UN said better access to primary healthcare and community health workers could vastly improve the outlook. But it also warned that climate change, increasing inequity, conflict, and the long-term fallout from the global health crisis could all threaten progress.
The issues as they break. The multitude, the political figure, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy. And our governments seem to be incapable of protecting.
The scheming.
This is not a period we should slip by and go. Every part of this country is important.
The intrigue.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection. I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe it was for that reason.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacence?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. The issues as they break. The multitude, the political figure, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy. And our governments seem to be incapable of protecting.
The scheming.
This is not a period we should slip by and go. Every part of this country is important.
The intrigue.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection. I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe it was for that reason.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacence?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time.
The fall armyworm has caused devastating crop losses across Africa since it arrived in 2016 in Malawi at Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources. Biotechnology research scientist Kingdom Kwapata is leading studies in 2 varieties of maize whose genes have been modified to resist the pest. Such engineered crops are considered genetically modified organisms or GMOs.
We needed a solution because our farmers are suffering. Our main purpose and aim for the research is to establish whether the gene that confers resistance against fall armyworms and other lepidopteran insects is effective.
The trials are expected to take about 5 years. They are conducted in a fenced and confined maize field 500 meters away from any traditional crop to avoid possible contamination with the traditional varieties. In the meantime, lawmakers, traditional leaders, and farmers have visited the trial site to observe its progress. Some farmers are excited about the trial, which is in its first year.
This will solve the problems of lack of money to buy pesticides to kill fall armyworms, which have affected my maize harvest for many years. And I am now a happy farmer because these trials are providing solutions to the problem.
Another subsistence farmer, Esther Ganjawala, is skeptical about the technology. She notes that replacing local maize varieties with high-yielding hybrids has created new troubles.
These new varieties are not good at all. You can't harvest anything without applying fertilizers, and they are easily attacked by pests. That's why there is growing poverty. But with our local varieties, we can harvest even without applying fertilizers.
Research Akwapata says genetically modified crops have been introduced safely elsewhere, including the United States, Brazil, and Argentina. But many in Malawi are concerned about possible health and environmental impacts.
So even though the target is to make sure the stalk borer doesn't attack the maize or the armyworms, but actually the introduction of this GMO will affect other beneficial insects such as bees and other,
are being monitored in real time to ensure prompt alerts on any major event.
And beyond that, we have seismicity every other day. This instrument is both able to pick what is happening here and what happens elsewhere. So it has capability of picking local events. I mean, things happening around us in Abuja here, in neighboring areas. It also has capabilities of picking regional seismicity, things happening maybe in Lagos, maybe in Ghana, and of course the ones we call tele-seismic events.
Earthquake is a disaster that inflicts a substantial human, material, and economic losses, which many affected countries rarely recover from. At the briefing, the Nigerian Geological Survey Agency allayed its fears of Nigerians, saying the tremor experienced in Abuja on the 5th of August was shallow and posed no threat to lives and properties.
Relationship between some artificial activity and tremor occurring, and I guess that was why there was a stoppage over time. That okay, let us do a stoppage of activities of blasting and confirm if what we experience is from that activity or from the natural source. That means there is a sense of thinking and artificial can cause it. So there can be a connection, but like I said, it's a function of the degree of what happened. So what is important is monitoring how it travels.
Niger State government has confirmed that 17 people have died of diphtheria out of 124 recorded cases of infection in 3 local government areas within the last 7 months. Commissioner for Health, Murtala Bagana, made this known while presenting the health sector's highlights for the second quarter of 2026. Bagana also disclosed that 103 patients have been treated and discharged, while 17 deaths were recorded in Bida, Suleja, and Shiroro local government areas of Niger State. According to him, 3 new cases had recently been identified, with 1 patient currently on admission. He noted that the government was strengthening disease surveillance, case management, immunization, and public awareness to contain the disease and prevent further transmission. Bagana urged parents and caregivers to ensure that children were fully vaccinated, stressing that routine immunization remained critical to preventing childhood diseases such as diphtheria, measles, and other vaccine-preventable infections. Properties worth over 100 million naira have been destroyed by floods in the Imam community, and several houses and valuable properties in the MI Wushishi community within Minna Metropolis in Niger State capital. Victims of the flood attributed the intensity to the activities of illegal miners who have blocked the water channels and appealed for the government's intervention and necessary actions.
The incident, which occurred as a result of about 6 hours of heavy downpour, displaced several family members at the MI Wushishi estate in Minna. The flood swept through parts of the community, carrying debris and other materials, damaging several houses, a mosque, an Islamic school, and vehicles parked within the community. The residents identified the lack of adequate drainage systems and activities of illegal miners as major challenges facing the community.
People start coming out telling us that the miners, where the water is supposed to pass, the miners are blocked, so there is a backfeeding. And this is how we have this problem here. So if government can do something, we are waiting.
So my neighbor was shouting, I heard her shouting my name, I should come out, come out. So immediately I opened the door, the water just rushed into the room, and I was just shouting with my children, shouting for rescue. Just thank God we are able to come out of the room. If not, it was not easy at all.
For now, we see our mattresses and everything because the water has even got to our chest level inside the house. We managed to evacuate the children, and we have to hang them on our necks for us to be able to.
We just see ourselves inside water, so we have to run to the mosque to go and stay. We just now we come here, we see how our packing things now, see all the mattresses everywhere damaged.
They appealed to the state government, humanitarian organizations, philanthropists, and other stakeholders to urgently intervene and address the situation, protecting the lives and property of the residents.
The government to assist us because I'm just retired. And the discrepancy, see where I'm managing. And see, I don't know where I'm going to start now. I don't know. I just don't know where I'm going to start now.
Riverbanks to relocate to safer and higher ground following the incident.
We have to come in and expand this canal and make it more to make it better so that the water can flow without any obstructions.
No loss of life was reported in the latest flash flood incident, but authorities have been urged to do the needful immediately. Zachary Omale, AIT News, Mina.
Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State has expressed support for initiatives aimed at promoting clean cooking methods in the state. The initiative aims at reducing the use of charcoal and firewood across the state. Governor Sule expressed support during a presentation on the Sustainable Energy Access Project in Lafia. He said the state's major challenge was not planning, but implementation and enforcement.
Sule noted that despite Nasarawa's efforts to restrict charcoal use, the practice remained widespread in some communities. The governor welcomed the proposed use of natural gas as a cheaper alternative to firewood, charcoal, and liquefied petrol and gas, stressing that residents must be able to see and experience the economic benefits before they would fully embrace the initiative.
But Nigeria is a country that is so blessed with the abundance of gas. So if you carry on this initiative, that's why I was very interested in hearing from my friend MDAEDC, how they will go about it, so that we don't just discuss it and at the end of the day there is no implementation and we don't get that.
To electricity.
So we have a technology that allows us to deliver natural gas at about 60% the cost of LPG. LPG costs between 1,500 to 1,600 per kg today. We can deliver cooking gas at about 600 to 500 naira a kg. At that price, it is cheaper than firewood and charcoal. And not only is it cheaper, it's also safer.
The Director General of the Nasarawa State Human Capital Development Agency, Habiba Suleiman, said the state's 10-year plan targets 10 million homes and about 1 million homes annually, with the aim of reducing emission, improving health, and assessing carbon finance.
We have our Nasarawa State Low Emission Development Strategy document. We also have a 10-year costed plan and also an implementation framework, so that we're not just putting out a document, we're not just putting out statements, but we're putting out a pathway that would enable us achieve the expected outcomes.
Governor Sule directed relevant state agencies and technical personnel to work with the project developers to ensure that the proposal moves from planning to implementation. Mwesi Shakia, AIT News, Lafia.
Election stakeholders have stressed that Nigeria can only achieve more credible elections and increased voter participation by reducing human interference through the deployment of technology in the electoral process. This was one of the major highlights of the Electoral Roundtable Dialogue held in Abuja, where participants advocated a more inclusive and pragmatic approach to encourage greater participation in elections elections, particularly among young people.
Nigeria's electoral system remains a major concern for these young participants who have gathered to proffer practical solutions to the long-standing challenges undermining the country's elections. Guest speaker, Professor Abiodun Ajibade, maintained that the deployment of modern technology would reduce electoral fraud and manipulation while enhancing the credibility and transparency of the electoral process.
We can sit down in the comfort of our house and vote without going to face barrels by this. In fact, most people know who you voted for. Is it mandatory? Don't you have your own working minds? Don't you know who you want? Whatsoever anybody meets at the collation unit and what is announced is exactly what we have done. And if anything is rigged, we will know.
The National Orientation Agency, NOA, is also championing efforts to mobilize and sensitize young Nigerians, encouraging them to play an active role in strengthening the nation's democratic process.
Voter party is something that is of great concern to NOA. And then we encourage all our youths to participate, come out to participate in the democratic process, not only during election, all year round.
And this is one way of us giving back to the society by sensitizing people, providing opportunities for youth and coming together, bringing different tribes together, bringing different people of different backgrounds so that we can rub minds together and talk about today's problem and provide tomorrow's solution.
The organizers say the response has been encouraging, urging more young Nigerians to embrace the initiative by actively participating in the electoral and political process. Chukwebuka Obodo, AIT News, Abuja.
Still on electoral issues, concerns over judicial accountability and the credibility of election disputes resolution have prompted fresh calls for reforms ahead of 2027 general elections. The calls were made at a press briefing in Abuja by Action Aid Nigeria following the 5th session of its Independent Judicial Accountability Panel, IJAP. The panel wants election petitions involving governorship, Senate, and House of Representatives elections to end at the Court of Appeal, except in exceptional circumstances. It also wants INEC to play a more proactive role in resolving internal disputes within political parties, while former senior INEC officials should be restricted from partisan politics for 5 years after leaving the commission.
The court ought not to intervene in the internal affairs of political parties, with the exception that where there is a breach of the party's constitution, the matter becomes justiciable. That is, the courts can then intervene. That the first level of resolution for internal disputes of political parties should be by INEC itself as the regulatory body. This will be in line with the provisions of Section 228, subsection B of the 1999 Constitution as amended.
Country Director of Action Aid Nigeria, Andrew Mamedu, also called on the Attorney General of Osun State to prosecute what he described as unguarded statements made during political campaign by a serving senator.
We don't care which political party is involved. Our concern is the Nigerian citizens and ensuring that this whole idea of threatening citizens for election, pre-election. So election is not only rigged on election day. That statement alone could keep a lot of people out of the D-Day voting. And we want to make sure that we find a way of curtailing or stopping it going.
We think that the INEC is not exercising its powers and responsibilities enough in resolving crises within parties before they escalate to the judiciary, to the courts. And then the second question is...
As the country prepares for 2027 elections, IJEP says independent candidacy should be constitutionally recognized to widen political participation and reduce the influence of political godfathers. And this is Abja Report on AIT, reaching you live from our Paduma Hill studios here in Asokoro. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Niger State government confirmed 17 persons dead of diphtheria out of 124 recorded cases in 3 local government areas within the last 7 months. And the Presidential Working Group extends deadline for National Policing Bill memorandum. Flood destroys properties worth millions in Minna Metropolis, Niger State.
Every great stew comes down to one moment. The moment that decides everything. When the tomato paste meets the oil, fries well, blooms deep red color, and gives off rich aroma. And when it blends well with everything else in the pot, I see it all coming together. New Tasty Tom fries well, blends well, shines in the moment.
Well, it shines so bright.
Welcome back. And now to health stories. The federal government of Nigeria has intensified efforts towards improving national water quality and public health in the country. The disclosure was made by the Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, who was represented by the Director, Water Quality Control and Sanitation in the Ministry, Abu Jamilu, at a training of trainers workshop on the Water Quality Handbook for the National Water Quality Campaign. It said the ministry would continue working with the organized private sector in water, sanitation and hygiene and other partners to strengthen water quality management and public awareness.
Poor quality water can lead to a lot of various water-related problems. So in Nigeria, we really need a practical tool that we can especially go into rural communities by engaging the local communities and work together to tell them about the risks and hazards associated with drinking water. So we can establish a plan that will address those risks and hazards so that the water that is going to the consumer tap point or to the consumer point is free and is habitable.
Stakeholders at the event noted that stronger participation among governments and professional bodies would be critical to achieving sustainable access to safe water and building healthier, more resilient communities.
Without this project, it will be very difficult for Nigeria to achieve SDG6 by 2030. So this project is part of Nestle Nigeria PLC contribution to the achievement of SDG6 in Nigeria and beyond. And we are also calling on federal government, calling on state governors to come out boldly and support this initiative, because
The handbook was developed to help communities understand the physical, chemical, and biological parameters of water, their health implications, and the economic consequences of consuming unsafe water. The Presidential Working Group on the National Policing Bill has extended the deadline for the submission of memorandum and position papers on the proposed legislation to Friday, August 21, 2026. The new deadline is 5 p.m. West African time, with the extension intended to give stakeholders additional time to prepare and submit comprehensive contributions to the proposed policing reform. The working group, chaired by the Chief of Staff to the President, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, said the extension would ensure that individuals, institutions and organizations have adequate opportunity to make well-considered contributions to the legislation. The proposed National Policing Bill is expected to provide the operational, administrative, institutional, and funding framework for an effective policing architecture that responds to Nigeria's evolving security needs, while strengthening accountability, professionalism, and the protection of citizens' rights. Stakeholders, including legal practitioners, civil society organizations, security sector professionals, state governments, professional bodies, academics, and members of the public have been encouraged to use the extended period to submit their memorandum and position papers. Key issues under consideration include sustainable police funding, command and control structures, recruitment and training standards, operational jurisdiction, interagency coordination, accountability mechanism, and safeguards against political interference and abuse. The working group said broad stakeholder engagement remained critical to developing a policing framework that is effective, accountable, sustainable, and responsive to the security needs of the communities across the country. All submissions are to be made exclusively through the official National Policing Bill portal, National Policing Bill, on or before 5 p.m. on August 21. Drug cartels are being dismantled and trafficking route disrupted, but Nigeria's anti-narcotic agency warns the battle is far from won. As the NDLEA honors officers and partners taking on the challenge, its chairman, Buba Mawa, says staying ahead of an evolving drug trade will require resilience across generations. Now to sports. With Nigeria's failure to qualify for the 2026 FIFA World Cup casting a shadow over the National Football Federation, the coalition of Arewa Youth says the setback should not be used to determine the fate of the current NFF leadership. The coalition says football is unpredictable and that while NFF leadership must be accountable, sporting failures should not be turned into political or sectional blame.
There are structural problems in Nigerian football that require urgent attention, and there are lessons that must be learned from our failures. But it is equally important to acknowledge that the present executive committee has demonstrated a clear commitment to addressing many of these challenges and has initiated change aimed at strengthening the administration.
Also point to the NFF Extraordinary General Assembly in March, which approved amendments to the Federation's status and electoral code ahead of the election.
The forthcoming NFF election must be allowed to proceed in accordance with the NFF statutes and electoral code. We affirm the legitimate aspiration of Arewa stakeholders to participate meaningfully in the leadership of Nigerian football. This is not opposition to any other region. It is an assertion of our own legitimate place in the national football leadership structure.
The group is urging stakeholders to allow the September 27 Congress to proceed according to the approved rules, while rejecting attempts to scapegoat the current leadership for the Super Eagles' recent setbacks. And that's up to report on AIT. I am Oyevimpe Wealth. Many thanks for staying with us.
I am a second generation farmer. My parents started this farm in 1962. My father started out not as a farmer, but as a government economist, and he decided to be a farmer when he was in his late 20s. And they started out with sweet corn because he thought that that's what the world needed, was fresh sweet corn. The land that we are sitting on right now, they bought in 1966. I actually am somebody who has never missed a single summer on the farm. I love growing vegetables because it's the one thing that seems like will never go out of style. Everything else that's a food seems to be under some health questions, but vegetables are completely, uniquely healthy. This is the cool view. What do I do with my knife? How hard is it to get land and start a farm? It takes more than most people have. More like 60 years ago, Fairfax County was transitioning from being dairy farms to being suburbs. That development there was the Front Field. And if you go further, that's the Thompson Field. And if you go across the street, that's the Weissman Field. And if you go over there, that's Bradley Thompson's. And so all of these are old farmers from 50 years ago or 60 years ago who rented us property all along this road, all the way to Tyson's Corner. And so when my parents bought this piece of property, there were no suburban developments around here. It was a 2-lane highway, Route 7, which is now currently a 6-lane highway. And all the old dairy farmers were sitting on their property waiting to sell it and waiting to make a lot of money. If you can believe this, the land that was sold adjacent to our property in 2008 was $500,000 an acre undeveloped. An insane amount of money to have to spend to come up with to grow vegetables. What's the solution? What the populace needs to do is say that farming is important to them and that it's just as important as parkland or other public amenities that people really enjoy living near. And this is a big step toward keeping agriculture going in a metropolitan area. Farming basically means at the end of the year, hopefully you paid all your bills. But that doesn't mean you have any money left to start the next season unless you happen to have such a good season. CSA is a great fit for our farm. I think I have about 600 CSA members.
Happy to be here. We're so blessed, yes.
My father used to borrow $25,000 at the beginning of the season and pay it back to the bank in September. Instead of that now, we ask our customers if we can borrow that money, and they give it to us in February and willingly, and then we pay them back in vegetables through the seasons. They have 3 different size shares: mini, regular, and robust. If you're a mini share, you get 6, and you just come and pick out whatever 6 things you want. And if you decide you want 6 bags of tomatoes, you get 6 bags of tomatoes.
Oh my gosh, the produce is so fresher, has better flavor. It just, and you get to pick and choose what you want to use. It is just wonderful.
When you do something the same for 20 years or 15 years or 10 years, and you keep coming once a week to somebody's house, every
Hello and welcome to Democracy Today live on Africa Independent Television, AIT. I am TV Tiav. It appears that all is not set for Saturday's Osun State governorship election with barely less than 48 hours to the commencement of voting. This is because the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is yet to begin distribution of sensitive electoral materials. What we know is that the Commission is yet to also confirm that it has taken delivery of the new ballot papers and result sheets it has ordered for reprinting following the court order to include the Social Democratic Party, the SDP, on the ballot. Election observer groups are already raising concerns as it cannot be said for certain whether or not the election on Saturday will be held as scheduled or not. Let's listen to what they have been saying.
Followed a federal high court judgment directing the commission to include SDP on the ballot. Compliance required the reprinting of ballot papers and result sheets across the state, increasing the number of parties on the political parties on the ballot to 15.
Except extra measures are taken to ensure those materials get to the local government and the racks get activated early enough, then we might have logistic challenge on Saturday. And our expectation is every mechanism is put in place, that stakeholders also contribute and support the process, because what we are dealing with in this election is unusual.
Very unusual. We have joining us on the program tonight a seasoned reporter and chairman of all the correspondents who are covering Osun State, Shina Abubakar, who will be joining us virtually live from Osogbo to bring us update on what is happening on the ground. But then wonders may never end when it comes to the judiciary in Nigeria. This Thursday, the FCT High Court in Abuja extended an interim order restraining the Imo State government, its agencies, the police and others from destroying, defacing or removing billboards installed by a member representing Idiato North and South Federal Constituency, Ikenga Imogo Chinyere. The issue is not with the court order or what it is trying to address, but the location and the issue of jurisdiction. An FCT High Court assuming jurisdiction in a matter that affects Imo State, in a matter that almost all the actors and the activities and all of that are in Imo State. We'll wait to see how this will end. But then President Bola Tinubu has received a lot of accolades for the establishment of 4 new divisions of the Nigerian Army in Makurdi in Benue State, Jalingo in Taraba State, Benin City in Edo State, and Ilorin in Kwara State. What does this actually mean? Is it a solution to the insecurity in these areas where these new divisions will be established? What are the implications? We have live in the studio Nigeria's former Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabor, to engage these issues and more. We shall get into the discussions, the conversations, and all of that, bringing you updates by the time we bring you up to speed also with other major developing reports.
Election observers group are raising concerns over electoral preparedness, neutrality of security agencies, and public confidence ahead of Saturday's Osun State governorship election. Yaga Africa raised the concern at a pre-election press briefing held in Osogbo, the state capital.
Followed a federal high court judgment directing the commission to include SDP on the ballot. Compliance required the reprinting of ballot papers and result sheets across the state, increasing the number of parties on the political parties on the ballot to 15.
Except extra measures are taken to ensure those materials get to the local government and the racks get activated early enough, then we might have logistic challenge on Saturday. And our expectation is every mechanism is put in place, that stakeholders also contribute and support the process, because what we are dealing with in this election is unusual.
With public campaigns for the 2027 presidential election expected to begin on Wednesday next week, that is August 19th, the National Human Rights Commission, NHRC, is warning political actors, religious and traditional leaders, media practitioners, and Nigerians against hate speech, incitement, and intimidation and divisive rhetoric. Executive Secretary of the Commission, Tony Ojukwu, gave the warning while expressing concern over statements attributed to some public figures, including Sheikh Sani Yahaya Jingu and Senator Francis Faddaunsi, which he said could deepen social divisions, heighten tensions, and trigger electoral violence.
We call on all stakeholders to join us in building an electoral environment in which disagreement does not become hatred, political competition does not become violence, and diversity does not become a justification for discrimination.
Now, the federal government has urged Nigerians abroad to do more than transfer funds to home-based family, relatives, and friends. This is the message federal government has. Now, the federal government has urged Nigerians abroad to do more than transfer funds to home-based family. Now, the federal government has urged Nigerians abroad to do more than transfer funds to home-based family, relatives, and friends. This is the message federal and state government officials have taken to the meeting Nigerian-Canada Diaspora Economic Conference in Toronto, Canada. There are challenging citizens living outside Nigeria to convert remittances into structured investment that will drive Nigeria's economic transformation.
You are the untapped gold mine, and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not paying lip service to that. We want concrete results now. You have the structure, you have the platform. So my plea to you is very simple. Do not just succeed in Canada, succeed for Nigeria. And that's why the theme is,
if we can create the homeland consciousness, which I'll speak to in a second, to be able to regain much of the lost diaspora.
At the updates there for you, and we'll get into the conversations right away. Almost everybody is talking about Osun State. We'll get updates like we promised you in the course of the program. But we have with us live in the studio, General Lucky Irabor, Nigeria's former Chief of Defense Staff. He was also the commander of the Multinational Joint Task Force, was commander of TRADOC. He was also commander of the Operation Lafia Dole. So a lot of experience, you would say. Thank you very much for joining us, General.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
Yes. In the last few weeks, divisions, 4 of them. From your own experience, do you think this is a solution? Let's start with that.
Well, first and foremost, let me thank you for having me, and to see that before a force structure is that's for a military is proposed or approved, there are a lot of work that have gone into it. First is threat assessment, to look at what the threats are, the possible threats. And in our environment, I believe that it's obvious to everyone that there are issues. And so to that extent, the approval that was given by the Commander-in-Chief for the expansion of the Army, that is the divisional structure of the Army from 8 to 12, is steps in the right direction for so many reasons. One, the land space, if you like. Perhaps let me backstep a little bit. The preponderance of the challenges that we have, especially currently, centered around the surface forces. Surface, in the sense that with the land space that we have, which is well over 924,000 square kilometers of land, you should understand that there is a need for proper occupation in a manner that when threats occur, one should be able to respond. So these are part of the parameters that were looked at before this new force structure. Even though earlier on, there's no piece of land in Nigeria that the army divisions have not covered. So what this one helps to do now is to shrink the areas of responsibility of each of the divisions, which makes it more important. But I believe that what should be of interest to Nigerians is the fact that whereas this is a good thing to do, we should also try to equalize our expectations. Why? Because the offshoot, if like the impact of what we like to find, is not going to be just it's not a quick fix. It's not something that, like earlier described as off the shelf. Yeah. It's like if something you've just gone to the shelf, you pick up and then you begin to use. No, that's not it, because it's a process, and it is going to take a little longer for us to be able to see the impact. Why? One, you have to not just recruit the forces, you have to train them, you have to equip them, you have to also provide accommodation for them. Your barracks have to be constructed, among several other things. And if you put all this together, it is not what you just put your hand in your pocket and just bring out a few naira. And I think that happens. So this perhaps what I need. But by and large is a good step, and I believe that that in due course will help us to be able to respond to threats, especially the threats that require military responses in that sense.
You mentioned quick fix, you mentioned occupation. We'll get back to these two issues.
Yeah.
But then I know that in August 2013,
correct,
former then President Goodluck Jonathan approved the establishment of the 7th Division in Maiduguri.
Correct.
In 2017,
correct,
then President Buhari also approved the establishment of 8th Division in Sokoto.
Correct.
After all of this, you became Chief of Defense Staff.
Correct.
The establishment of the division in Maiduguri and Sokoto, has it changed anything? Because Nigerians will tell you the attacks most probably have continued. Maybe what the governor of Borno State, for instance, will let us know is that, look, there are places that the troops or the security forces don't go. Everybody is maintaining defense lines and all of that.
Okay, let's. I'm glad that you asked this, and to also know that there have been a lot of developments, and that's the reason perhaps why we should also commend the effort that was done recently with respect to this 8 to 12 division structure. For you to know that force structure for any military is usually reviewed periodically. Now, let's go back to the 2015 that you talked about, which is true. It's very, incidentally, I was a brigade commander at the time on that 3 division. I was a signal brigade commander. And the division then covered the entire Northeast, including Borno State, as it were. And the problem, of course, was quite obvious that from Jos, we had to travel to Maiduguri and then to Yola, and then, of course, around, because these were where we had issues then, Adamawa, part of Bauchi, as well as Yobe State, and then a little part of Gombe, and then of course, Taraba. But the epicenter was Borno State. And so it became quite obvious that there was a need to, create that division. Actually, it's not in 2013. It was not in 2014, right? It was in 2013.
2013, yeah. August 2013.
Yes, August 2013, because then General Ehejirika was the chief of army staff, and when it was created. So I was part and parcel of the team that went to Maiduguri at the time to have that brigade, that division inaugurated. So, of course, again, when a division was created, I was also, at that time, I was already a major general, and then, the theater commander, Operation Lafia Dole. Just for proper, for factual presentation, a division was originally, created to be part and parcel of the theater, Operation Lafia Dole, and the headquarters was then in Mongunu. The division was under me as the theater commander. I had three divisions, not three divisions as an entity, but then 3 different divisions that were under the operation that I commanded at the time. So 3 division on one hand, 7 division, and of course 8 divisions. So it was wise, handling that at a later stage, the issues around the Northwest began to crop up, that 8th division was now moved to Sokoto, because at that time we've been able to reduce, the threat in Borno, substantially until they have, at a later stage. So this was what actually happened. So what I'm trying to say is that yes, creations were made, but it's not just to create structures. You must also know that it's like, if I may give an analogy, if we have 10 bottles of water here, all right, the content of the 10 bottles might not be up to the content of 1.
Depending on the quantity.
I wish, the bottles are right here. So the issue here is that if there's a requirement for 10 bottles of water, those 10 bottles of water must be 10 bottles of water, not a little quantity in each of the bottles. So for you to say that there are 10 bottles of water, okay, you must certify that the quantity, the actual quantity of the liquid in
each of the bottles
measures. So the creation, maybe that's the best way I can bring this, to say that there are still requirements for each of the existing 8 divisions to be scaled up to what we call table of organization and equipment. It might not be appropriate for me to begin to give all the details here to the public, but what's important is, that I have said earlier on that we need to also equalize our expectation. That it's not something, it's not off the shelf kind of arrangement, that because a creation has been made, then of course it's going to happen. No, that's not. You begin to see, a fast-tracked, action in terms of response to the challenge that we have. But that when in future or as time goes on, you see government increasing the allocations that will make these creations, new creations, to be effective, then you should know why such decisions are being taken. That's the whole essence of what I'm driving at. That it's going to take a large chunk of the revenue accruals.
But already for several years, the country's budget, we've had defense and security, they've had the highest budget over time. What happens to this budget? Good enough you were in the mix of it, because a number of Nigerians will tell you, oh, why is the army, for instance, building conference centers in Abuja, Air Force, and all of, when they should be this kind of scale up that you are talking about, they should be investing in this. Remember, those former governor of Edo State, Senator Oshomole, raised this issue, said, can we audit what the military is this defense budget? Can we audit what they are spending? Can we audit all of those things? There are concerns about this.
All right.
And I think they are legitimate.
Okay, so let us get it. Something sounds nice doesn't make it nice. That something sounds good doesn't make it good. Just let's get that straight. There is nothing wrong with accountability. If you want to ask questions, of course, every institution is liable to, be scrutinized. But you see, the scrutiny must be in the right context. I told you earlier on that before these creations were made, there was an assessment that was made. Yeah. So that is also accountability. Now, so what you must understand is the fact that, yes, the budgetary provisions for the military over the last decades, all right, over the last, let me say over the last 5 to 6 years, have been quite substantial. But then you should also ask, what is the reason for such allocations? Because we have a problem. Yes. Now those problems, you must ask yourself, what really what is required to be able to address those problems? So when you say that the people are asking questions, the questions that you ask is this: how has those allocations been used? What were they used for? And I'm going to give you an example. The troops that we have, all right? Yes. They need to be fed. Mm-hmm. They need to be kitted. Now, and then, of course, you also need to have a mobility platform for them. Before I even talk about the mobility itself, the mobility platform, what will make the mobility platform to move, which is fuel. Now, all these elements, among several others that I've just mentioned, they are just expendables. So whether you move an inch or whether you achieved any result or not, a lot of money has gone into it, so they are expendables. Then you also have ammunition that you fire. Once you fire, it is gone. As at the time I was chief of defense staff, a bullet cost about 40 cents. That is, depending on the bullet. Okay, but the least cost about 40 cents.
That's for AK-47?
AK-47. Yeah. Now, that has increased, the cost of that has increased. Right. Currently, of course, I need to go and fact check. Perhaps it will be nearing, $1. So, meaning that for a soldier that fires a shot, that is gone. When you look at the rate, the Naira exchange, then of course you know what that means. Yeah. Now, for a soldier per day is entitled to 3 magazines with additional one, which is 4, depending on the tempo of operation. I'm using this one for you to get an idea of what the cost implication will be. That's number one. Number two, you may buy a piece of equipment today, say for example, MRAPs, that cost about $300,000 to $350,000. And then as you are moving, perhaps that may be the first day that you are deploying it. All right? And then just as you're leaving your base, it comes across an IED and it's gone. $350,000 is gone. So will you ask tomorrow that what did you do with that money? These are things. So rather than you asking, say, how much money has been, which there's nothing wrong in asking the such question, but what's important is these men that we have sent out, what quantity of vehicles or what quantity of resources, and when I say resources, I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about material, equipment that's supposed to go out with. Take for example, for a company of soldiers, going out for perhaps one operation or the other, if they are supposed to go with 15 or 20 vehicles, you should ask yourself, how many vehicles are they going out with? So if you must ask what results have been achieved, they must also, where the accountability comes in now is to say, look, okay, why have they not been able to achieve these results? Could it be that instead of going with 20 vehicles, they were able to, accept wrong, they are able to mobilize 2 vehicles? Those are those are the questions that I believe that Oshomole was talking about, not because they believe that some funds have been misappropriated. So let us get it right. So when people when they say accountability, it's not in the context. It's not always that they want to find out, whether somebody has embezzled money, because that's what the impression that some of you in the press will perhaps want to, drive into the mind of the average, citizen on the street. So these are the issues that there are quite a good number of, challenges that the forces in the front line that they face. And for me, what should be of interest to us is that, look, how can we make these forces, how can we make them to be more effective? What tools should we provide for them that will make them to be able to achieve greater results and at a greater pace? For me, that's what's more important. And so if the accountability, if you like, that we are talking about seeks to achieve that, then of course it's the right thing to do. Otherwise, it's a fruitless effort.
Quick fix, you said it's not possible.
Correct.
Occupation.
Correct.
We are discussing this on a program like this, Democracy Today, because, a number of people look at security is a threat to democracy. It's clear, it's obvious.
Correct.
And Nigerians were expecting, because the constitutional responsibility of a government is the first is security and welfare.
Correct.
And that security is fundamental. And we know that even before the creation of these divisions, troops have been, doing one operation or exercise or the other in almost all the 36 states and Abuja. And there are concerns of this occupation you mentioned much earlier. Are we not seeing more of military in the civil space than it should be in a democracy or under a system the kind of system that we have?
Yes, of course. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, the military man himself is really that, this is what he wants to do. He is sold out to the state. It is what the state commands him to do that he's doing. So the reality is that where we have found ourselves, the challenges that we have is peculiar. And so the military has been called out. So asking, the soldier like me why he's involved in it, it's like I've been given a tax. I mean, yes, when I say I have been given, I'm not talking about me as a person. I'm talking about the institution that I represent and where I served, all my life, where I've served all my life. So for him, he of course will want to also have a little breather to be able to, improve on his skills, on his training, and then to also be able to solve some other problems, if only the conditions are right. So in this case, of course, we have seen that the police, that is, the primary organ of state to address internal security issues, also have challenges. So as we speak for the military, the police is even
more vulnerable.
It's even worse off. Is it the funding? Do you like the disposition of the police?
Certainly.
The way they appear? Do you like it?
Certainly.
And then you have also heard that every now and then they keep talking about funding the police is a challenge among several other issues. So it's the same way. Security and defense have never been a cheap endeavor. So whilst it is essential that Nigerians are a bit bothered, is to also understand the issues. And this brings me to the reason why I even accepted to come to you.
Yeah.
And if, of course, other media houses have to go to make some interventions. Because when you listen to some of the commentaries, you realize that they're actually misplaced. They tend to put the organs of state, pit them against the populace, which does not augur well. So for me, the kind of interventions that I try to do and why I choose to come here is to correct those impressions, to be able to give greater hope to the people, and also as an encouragement to those who I know the pains they are going through because they have been saddled with these responsibilities under very, very difficult and strenuous conditions. So for me, volume of whatever has been, earmarked for defense and security can never be too much. Just like, in those days, we used to hear that if you think education is expensive, then try ignorance. So it's the same way. Today, if they ask you what will be your preference to have a peaceful environment to some other, benefits, I'm sure what you would choose is peace.
Sure.
Because you can't quantify what peace gives to you. It's like, someone in good health. You can't quantify the blessings that such a person enjoys until he loses that health. Then you now begin to ask, okay, no matter the amount, please, I'm ready to pay for as long as I regain my health. So it's the same way for security. So whatever expenditures are being made for security is in the right direction. Why? Because the opposite of that is something that is
nobody wants.
It can only be left for you to interpret.
We shall take a break now, and when we get back, we'll be taking a closer look, at some of these security. You mentioned the police, fundamental.
Correct.
We'll take a look at some of these issues. Stay with us.
New chapter in political discourse. The conversations that matter most are stepping into the spotlight like never before. Political platform, the hard-hitting, no-holds-barred program you have trusted on Raypower Radio is making a powerful move to television. Tune in to Africa Independent Television, AIT, as political platform debuts on your screen, bringing deeper analysis, sharper debates, and the voices shaping our nation's future right into your screens. From policy and politics breakdowns to real-time discussions with key stakeholders, this is more than a program. It is where opinions are tested, truths are uncovered, and the people's voice is heard. Join seasoned hosts and expert guests as they tackle the issues that define our democracy. No filters, no distractions, just real talk. Political platform now on AIT, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday. Stay informed, stay engaged, be part of the conversation.
In the hallowed chambers where laws are forged and a nation's destiny is decided.
This is your parliamentary program, Inside the Parliament on AIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash, debates ignite.
We cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The burden of proving that the elections have been conducted peacefully and in accordance with law must shift to INEC.
From the Senate to the House of Representatives, this is where policies are tested, laws are crafted, and authority is held to account.
We spoke to some lawmakers on their opinions of the document presented by the President.
Every motion, every argument carries the hopes of millions.
We need more hospitals, more health clinics in communities so that they can effectively take care of the primary health need of people.
The questions are tough. The exchanges are intense.
Mr. President, you can have your way, but I will have my say. You can use the gavel, and I will use my voice.
And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says.
But who truly stands for the people? Who is driving the change that defines our tomorrow?
CBT, GTBT, whatever.
Get the answers on Where Nigeria Decides on Inside the Parliament on AIT every Tuesday, 4:30 p.m.
Thanks for staying with us. We still have with us General Lucky Irabor, former Chief of Defense Staff. You mentioned the police much earlier in our discussion. And then you also talked about even the low funding for the military. Do you think if we had funded or if we are funding the police better, we may not have needed the military in the way and manner we need them now?
Okay, so first and foremost, I'm not saying that they have not funded the military well. Rather, what I said is that there is insufficient resourcing. Now, and that there's a difference.
Okay.
Now, funding here is relative. Now, relative in the sense that if you have 10 naira for maybe 10 people, and you bring out 2 naira to give to one person, the person cannot say that you have not given him an advantage. But what is more important is to find out whether that 2 naira, what percentage of what his requirements are. So when I say limited resourcing, it's in that context. So whereas out of 10 people, talking about within the economy now, let's assume there are 10 sectors of the economy, okay, that requires from this available 10 naira. So because of the challenge, a peculiar challenge that requires both defense and security, you now decide to allocate 2 naira. All right? Every other sector, we even say, look,
they've been shortchanged or they are.
But then the question to ask is, that 2 naira, what value is it relative to what is required for them to be able to be optimal in terms of the attainment of their mandates, achievement of the tasks that have been given? So this is the issue. So if perhaps the person or that sector, in this case, say defense, requires 30 naira and you are giving 2 naira, that's an issue. That 2 naira, not because you are releasing to them, it is in relative to the tools that they require for them to be able to be effective. So this is what I believe that many of you need to interrogate, so that at the end of the day, you are seized with the technical issues relative to the administration of defense and security forces. Then it becomes easier for you to now to be to engage the relative organs of state as to what they need to do, and then even having to also educate the public. But when you just stop it at the fact that relative to the budget, there is so much
for defense.
But without you actually asking yourself, within that so much, how much is so much relative to the needs? I've just told you again about the 4 divisions, additional divisions of the army. That does not imply that the 8 divisions that were there before have utterly gotten to their optimum. You must get it.
Yeah.
So, but then, are they just because you just close your eyes and then it becomes a full-fledged division? No. It's money that you are going to spend.
So when you were there, the commander-in-chief,
correct,
does he actually have the real budget or the real requirements? Do you guys usually present to them? Because I know the War College, Defense College, all of that, a lot of studies have gone into all of this. Do they actually have the real picture of what it should, and they are not doing what is required?
Okay, so let me tell you this, just for the purpose of educating the public, because nobody knows who is listening. What kind of responsibility may be given tomorrow, so that we don't end up, getting into the pitfalls that I've had. There's what is called higher management of defense, which is a core module that you deal with in Defense College. Now, that helps to integrate all these things that have to do with what is required at the strategic, both the tactical, operational, and strategic level of the military, as well as what is also required outside of the military within the political sphere itself. So the grand strategic plan and things that are also relative to, the other sectors of the economy, where, how to have the right mix and then, proper synchronization of all the requirements. That's what that module deals with. So a commander like I was, all right, as CDS, I also know that my duty, my responsibility is not just only to the defense. No, it also goes to, because defense and security actually is the aggregate of all things that the state represents. All right? you have what is called the element of a state power. Now, if those elements are properly, in their right ratio and proportion, we're able to achieve them, then of course you don't have any issue that has to do with challenges security-wise. So, but then life is not always like that. So to answer your question directly is the fact that yes, of course, I have a book which I've written. In the book, I mentioned in part that we carried out what we call a combat efficiency assessment, and then I made a presentation to the then Commander-in-Chief. And in the book, I indicated that when the Commander-in-Chief saw it, it was concerning to him. And of course, he took certain actions. So just to give you an idea that, of course, all these things are presented. But you see, if your child, if any of your children now comes to you to ask you for what you cannot afford, you are not going to dismiss him. You are possibly going to say, okay, well, Tunde Bello, okay, don't worry. Oh, that's very good. All right, for now, this is what, just hold it. Maybe by so and so time, we'll look at how I will discuss with your mom, blah, 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 and then we'll do something. Then the child will leave you motivated. But then, you know that you are not telling the child the absolute truth. But that does not mean that you have lied to the child. But for me, as a strategic military commander, I must also know the pains that my superior is going through. Do you understand? Because I know the resources available to him. And so these are how you manage some of these issues. And I think that just presenting the problem is not... I usually tell my subordinates that, and even now as I go around giving lectures and also consult, I say, look, if you're a subordinate, if you're presenting challenges to your superior, you must come with options.
Options, yes.
Because if you don't come with options, there is no superior who is ready to be burdened by problems. You should be able to give him a leeway for him to be able to take decisions, because your superior for him is to take decisions and provide resources for you. But if you make it look as if, that there's, no, not just that you have hit a brick wall, then of course, tomorrow is not going to see you. So this is the reason why you must be able to analyze. In the military, we say, know your men. Know your commander, and the commander know your men. Meaning that you should be able to know the strengths and weaknesses of each and every of your personnel, so that when it's time for you to tax them, you're able to tax them appropriately. Why? Because you are looking for results. You want to achieve results. You are not going to, engage people who will not give you the optimum results. Well, so it's the same way in this. If
we have the time, I will ask you the question of the suspicion Nigerians have with the military. Okay. But let's get this intervention from Osun State, where we have Shina Abubakar, a very experienced journalist who is also the chairman of the Correspondence Chapel in Osun State. All right, I'm being told he is no longer there with us, but well, hopefully if we get him back. General, okay, he's back now. Abubakar, thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Yes, sorry, we were expecting you much earlier when we didn't get you on. But then Osun State, the elections in less than 48 hours. As we speak, this distribution of sensitive materials has not started. What are you hearing from INEC? Have they confirmed receipt of the new ballot papers and election results?
Well, thank you. As at the last 30-40 minutes, I spoke with the public relations officer of INEC here. He told me that he has been briefed that the materials has arrived the airport of Apule, and it is en route to Oshogbo here. So, as with regards to that, till this moment, we've not had anything, but it is hopeful that by this night, the materials will arrive. He said most of the vehicles that will convey the materials to their destinations are already on standby. But because of the reprinting of the ballot papers to include SDP, as ruled by a High Court judge, That is what delayed the arrival of the material. In the last 40 minutes, he told me we have arrived in Akure and en route to Osogbo, which takes about 1 hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours journey.
We have 30 local governments in Osun State. Are you confident that when these materials get in this night, INEC within 24 hours, is it possible to effectively move them to the local governments where they should be, moving to the wards, that's the racks, eventually heading to the polling units?
Well, by the briefing of the first PPRO this evening, he said there are a whole security, a 6 units command of MOPOL that were deployed to INEC office. There are police on standby for INEC duty. Now, if all of these people,
I'm talking of the geography.
I'm talking of the geography.
Yes. Okay.
To the movement of materials. Now, with all of these securities, MOPOL military men around, if the material arrives, let's say by 8 p.m., it can still be deployed to all the local government, be escorted by security operatives, particularly the army and the MOPOL and the armed MOPOL men. With the situation in Osun, nobody, so far so good, is bold enough to want to tackle these ones going into the local governments. The local governments with the highest distance to Osogbo, the state capital, is Ife South local government, which shares boundary with Ondo states. And that takes about 2 hours.
Okay. All right. We hope INEC will be able to get that in good time. But we are also here in the last 24 hours. There were also these reports about a possible alliance between Accord Party and the which party now, and ADC. Have you also heard that?
Well, actually, the ADC spokesperson, I called him and he spoke to me directly that they have no any alliance between ADC and Accord Party. The man has been saying this. He spoke about it at a town hall meeting that was held, that he has campaigned across all the local governments. He has engaged with stakeholders. It is not for him at this point to want to go into alliance with any political party. Now, the last thing they did was...
Yes. Oh. Network. We are all the interventions we've had from Osun State in the last 3 days. They always end up like this, and we hope it will not affect upload of election results. General, finally, the suspicion between Nigerians, even the leadership and the military. You know, just 27 years ago, the military was in charge, and now the military everywhere.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad that you're asking this question, which a little bit, a bit away from the issue. But what's important is that the military has never been in charge of political governance.
Yeah.
It is, and people need to get it right. The military as an establishment has never been in power, in political power, and it's even an aberration. But we have military men who have also, aligned with a few politicians to be in power. I say this because I joined the army during the era of military rule.
Yes.
Okay? And ever since, I've observed that the military is the first victim of military rule.
Even with your officers becoming military governors,
of course.
ministers.
These are how many? What is the percentage? Don't forget that this was the same reason why Obasanjo, when he came in, at the beginning of this Fourth Republic, he, of course, said that any officer who have had, have taken part in political governance of the country must leave.
Yeah.
And of course, they were all retired, compulsorily. And then later on, of course, they changed that to, voluntary retirement. It is in that context. So this is the reason why that you find that during that time, what was of interest was regime protection. I'm not in any way trying to
exonerate the military.
No, I'm trying to discuss whether there was a need for them to come in or not. That's not the issue.
Yeah.
But to see military officers or the military establishment as those who have been in political power, it is wrong. That's not correct. So we must correct it so that at the end of the day, today, Nigerians must see the military as their own. It is the people's military.
Perhaps this conversation, yes.
Yes. So whether we like it or not, the military must exist for them to be able to play the role they are supposed to play, because they are the guardian.
Can we continue with this?
Let me end it. Because they are the guardian of democracy. Without the effective military, you can't have effective democratic governance.
Indeed, with protection of territorial integrity and all of that. So I want to believe you will give us a commitment that we will continue with this discussion.
Well, let's hope so.
As your time permits.
As time permits.
Thank you very much, General Lucky Irabor, former Chief of Defense Staff, wealth of experience, and you would say. That's the program tonight. Like we always say, democracy should work for every Nigerian, as the case should be. And citizens, please stay out of trouble and continue to be a good citizen that you should be. I am TV Tiaf.
Thank you.